Here we go. So Belgravia is set in Victoria's time, so the 1840s, and that was a big time of growth and expansion, and they were building a lot and industrialization, not dissimilar to what we've just seen with the internet and everything that's grown. And it does start in 1815, but the bulk of it, and certainly my character, is part of the 1840s storyline. And that storyline really is about the birth of a new class that disrupts the aristocracy. And, Belgravia was a marshland. Your old home was a marshland. And then Queen Victoria decided she wanted to live in Buckingham House full-time before it was Buckingham Palace. And all the aristocrats flocked and said, well, Thomas Cubitt came down and he drained it and, made it solid and built it sort of in a grid system in a nice fashion, sort of American way, really. And these big grand houses came up, and then everybody flocked to them, and we all had our nice dresses made and lived in them and wanted to go to the parties. In 1815, they'd go to war. Battle was a sort of little bit more organised than it is now. So they went after a party. They just went off to war after this dinner. And obviously it was one battle. It wasn't a war. So they had the battle and they came back. And then we cut to 1840, where the fallout from what happened has been made clear, because there was a marriage at the night of the party, and someone was given a husband, and the husband was of an aristocratic class and she wasn't of that class. So there's a sort of scandal that unfolds in there. And then there's the story of their story unfolds, and then over the course of that, they have another son, Oliver Trenchard, who's married to me, who's Susan Trenchard, and Susan Trenchard and Oliver haven't produced their own child. So there's a lot of sort of scandal and procreation questions going, a little bit more than Downton, which was kind of smoother and less.
It's like Downton's punk cousin.
That's right.
Isn't it? Are you still with us, Vassos?
Yeah, no, I can't wait.
Okay,
I love this sort of
I'm
stuff.
just checking if Alexander is listening at the back of the class.
Are you there, Alexander?
Yeah.
No, honestly, I love it. I mean, I love Downton,
Good.
but a little bit of,
Scandal.
a little bit of Sex Pistols and that sort of stuff
Yeah,
in
but that's
Downton
what
would
it's
be
like.
great.
Well, you got Glenister and Grieg
Yeah.
in the throne, on the throne, as it were. Okay, so Alice, now your character, she pops up 25 years after we've been victorious at the Battle of Waterloo. Where did you film it? Because having lived around there, and I was around there for 5, 6, 7 years. The TFI Friday year. So we used to do this rock and roll show, TFI Friday. Then we used to decamp to Belgravia. It's so weird. It's a juxtaposition. But there is a pub there called the Grenadier. Now the Grenadier was also served as the officers' mess for the Duke of Wellington.
Oh, wow.
And if you go to that pub still, and it's very hard to find. It's really,
Yes, it is.
really, really hard to find. There are two ways you can get to it. One is via sort of a windy mews or cobbled mews, and the other one is through a hotel. So you have to go to, the Berkeley Hotel.
Yeah.
You only can get to this one of two ways. One of which is through the Berkeley Hotel. And the doorman will say, hello, sir, may I help you? I'm just going to the pub. Yeah, fine. Oh, on you go. And they know exactly where you're going. But that was the officers' mess for the Duke of Wellington. And if you go in there, there is a beautiful painting on the wall that still remains in that, and it's a really, really small pub. It's minute, of the dinner they had, the celebration dinner for the Battle of Waterloo, after which they decamped to this pub.
Oh, wow.
To the Grenadier. So what I'm saying is, this is a long way of asking.
Have you ever had a pint? What you're saying is, have I ever had a pint of the Grenadier?
No, we should actually in a minute, while we still can, after this show, straight away. They do the best Bloody Marys in the country, by the way.
Oh, wow.
They bloody do. But where was your Belgravia? That's what I'm going to ask. Because it's so authentic when you watch the show.
We didn't film in Belgravia.
No, I know. You're not allowed. You wouldn't be able to.
Our
would you?
exteriors were Edinburgh, which, of course, when we built Belgravia, everything was white. And, of course, then the buildings age and they get darker. And so they had to CGI the buildings in Edinburgh so that they looked as white and fresh and new as they did then.
And when there's that many of you dressing up, and how on earth you direct those scenes, those calamitous crowd scenes in those narrow lanes and roads and avenues, whatever they may be. What's it like to be on set you must have to do that like 1,000 times.
Yeah, that's not the favourite bit.
Cue the chaos again. Is that what it's like?
Literally, yes. You repeat and repeat and repeat. And certainly when you're doing sort of outside with horses and carriages and things, it's, you just have to do it again and again, but repetition yields results. So.
And those crowd scenes cost a fortune.
Yes.
And they're quite interstitial within any of these period dramas, but they're so important because they give it a reality that you can buy, but you have to pay a fortune for it.
Yes, it's expensive to make good television.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Proper telly.
Yeah.
Okay, so your character, she's a strong woman and a woman not to be messed with.
Yes, she's a modern woman. I mean, Julia.
A modern woman, that's better.
Yeah, that's sort of because there are many ways to describe women, and we're really trying to change the language around that. But I'd say Julian's a real feminist, and he's written these completely comprehensive women. And when you get your hands on his script and you realise that everything is taken care of, everything you'd hope that she'd be defended and her story would be told, and those things are there. But Susan is navigating some real judgments and some real situations, and she navigates them to the point where some people could criticise her, but I champion it, and I think she's determined, and she's able to do things that we now take for granted, and she does things that are maybe a bit naughty.
A trailblazer.
She is.
Okay, a groundbreaker. So when there's so much revelry on set and it's so gregarious, it's so garrulous, gregarious and garrulous and all that kind of stuff, and it's mayhemic, but that's your job. Right. Now, that would put me in a mood, in the kind of mood where I just want to go out. So how do is that what you do after? Because you got Glenister on set, for heaven's sake.
He's a lot of fun.
Now, he likes the odd glass of pop, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
And Greg isn't she's no shrinking violet.
No.
So please tell me there was some fun had.
Yes, we went to a golf. We went to a sort of hotel on the borders where it was a golf course we were on in Scotland, and there was a bar there, and there was a little bit of fun at the end of the days there. But on the whole, when you're up at 5 and you've got on the whole, you have to just take magnesium and pray.
Okay, now dynasty-wise, we all know your dad, Trevor. I don't know much about your mum. Was she in the business? Or?
She's an actress. She was famous for the Gold Blend commercials, which were with Tony Head.
Know that. Should I know that?
No, it's up to you, really. There's a lot to know these days.
Okay, and obviously you are of an age now. You're mid-30s.
Yeah, something like that.
Mid-30s, something like that.
You can Google it.
So when you were a lot younger, was the pressure? Not pressure. Did you put pressure on yourself? Did you aspire to do what your mum and dad did say in the business, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a time where pressure is kind of a real part of life. So yes, of course, there was pressure to do things, but Dad definitely said finish university before you can be an actress. So I did finish university, and then I was able to make my decision for myself. But really, I would have done anything else, but acting welcomed me. So you go where you're wanted in life.
What about siblings? Do you have any siblings?
I have 2 younger brothers.
And what do they do?
One of them's a musician, and he's also sort of, like his generation, an entrepreneur and starting a company. And then the other one is also a filmmaker. He's 34 and he just did a film called Open, which he's I think selling at the moment.
All right. And other than acting, in front of the camera, do you inhabit a world behind the camera? Because you seem to me like you would be somebody who might form your own production company? Or...
Yes, I'm doing that actually.
Are you?
Yes, I'm in the process of that. I've just optioned a book which we've got hopefully going to do with the BBC, which is going really well, and we've got a great writer on board, and it's a book that I read at university and loved and never forgot, Women. And then there's another book I'm looking into doing, which is out of copyright, which is also about women. I mean, it's a great privilege to be able to read a story and think, oh, maybe I'd like to bring it to the screen. Hopefully it will happen. All
right, so the film you were slated to start shooting would have been where and when-ish, without going into too much detail?
It would have been in California in a month.
Right. Now, we're still allowed to go to California, aren't we? Yeah. For a while.
And I have a passport, so I can go, I think, probably anyway. But I'm not sure California is necessarily safe because they've declared a state of emergency.
Yeah, well, they might do that, I suppose. So what are you going to do instead?
I think I might just make some chicken soup.
The Chris Evans Breakfast Show with Sky.